Good evening. Welcome to the January 19th, 2017 Township Committee meeting of the Township of Chatham. Greg, has adequate notice of the meeting been given?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given to both the Chatham Courier and the Martyrs County Daily Record on January 6, 2017. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 6, 2017. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 6, 2017.
Thank you, Greg. Ladies and gentlemen, before we rise to salute the flag, I would like to note that there are few, if any, among us who need a reminder of tomorrow's important events in our nation. At approximately 12 noon on the 20th day of January, we will once again witness the uniquely American transition of authority to a new president. I ask that you join me in a moment of silent contemplation or prayer, if it suits you, in honor of this great tradition. Thank you. God bless America. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Here.
Here. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Very good. Our reports, Mike?
Yes, thank you, Karen. A quick report from the Community Garden Committee. Even though it is the depth of winter, and even though the weather is not really cooperating on that, but just a reminder that as of January 1st, the Community Garden is accepting applications for new garden plots at the Chatham Community Garden. If you go to our Chatham Township website and click on committees and then click on Community Garden, you'll get the detailed information in the application form. There are more than a dozen available garden plots. Last year they were all fully subscribed, so if you are interested, we would recommend that you do move quickly on that and enjoy the fruits of your labor as the summer goes on. And that's it.
Very good.
Vegetables
of your labor. Fruits
Vegetables, fruits, and flowers.
Of your labor and flowers.
Bad. That's really bad.
Kevin?
I have nothing to report tonight.
Very good. I would like to note that I attended the monthly board meeting of our senior center. They're planning their donor party for Sunday, January 29th, for those in our township who are kind and generous enough to support the excellent programs of our senior center. They're also working closely with the Tri-Town 55 Plus Coalition, which joins together the interests of our seniors in Chatham Borough and Madison Borough as well. One thing that's interesting among the pilot programs that they're working on, they have touched on transportation as a very key issue for our seniors in all three of our towns, and one of the most interesting things that they're doing is exploring an Uber-like app for our seniors where there will be rides on demand, and we look forward to learning more about it for our seniors. Obviously not everyone has a smartphone like the old-fashioned, like the present existing Uber itself, so we'll work on that. From a utilities perspective, my role as liaison is going to morph into reports from some other members of us here tonight. New Jersey American Water has approached us again recently regarding the water main underneath Lafayette Avenue Road, some 5,000 feet of water main, which dates back about 100 years. It has been in need of repair for many years. They tried coming to us, I think 5 years ago, Tom, when we had recently resurfaced all of Lafayette Avenue, so we put that off as much as possible, but they're back. The water main is going to be susceptible to increasing ruptures and breaks. Certainly we have hundreds and hundreds of students served by that water main in our Chatham High School and Lafayette Avenue campus. So we are in some real need of discussion regarding this water main. In order to repair it, they're going to have to close down sections of Lafayette Avenue for approximately 5 weeks. They think they can do about 1,000 feet a week. We've come to them with the suggestion that if they must do it now while school is in session, that they start at least in the 1,000-foot stretch in front of the high school and Lafayette Avenue campuses while school is not in session. That is during the February break, perhaps, if we can't stall them any longer. Like everybody else, we suggest, why can't you do it in the summer when we don't need this road quite so much and certainly don't need regular access to Lafayette Avenue School and Chatham High School. But at the same time, New Jersey American Water is adamant about the susceptibility of this water main to increasing ruptures and service interruptions. I don't know whether we have any discussion among the committee in that regard. We, obviously like, as I said, for the project to be done during the summer, but even if they do that, it's going to involve a complete road resurfacing, which will likely just stretch the whole project out into the fall anyway while school is in session. So I'll leave that out there for anybody's opinion. Tom, certainly you were there with us.
Yeah,
so.
if I may just add, New Jersey American will put out public information and in an attempt to hopefully inform everybody about the details of the project as far as timing and when they will be, in particular areas. One of the things that they really stressed with us is that the main on Lafayette, the replacement will increase it from, I think it's currently a 6-inch main to a 12-inch. So it's going to substantially increase the water flow. And the main services not only Lafayette Avenue, but all of the neighborhoods that tee off of Lafayette Avenue. And subsequent to the main upgrade, they're going to be doing cleaning and relining of the mains that go through all of those neighborhoods, like Lenape, like, I guess, Longwood, all of the side streets and neighborhoods that tee off of Lafayette Avenue. So that's part of the reason that they really are anxious to get started, because that project, the cleaning and relining, can't be done until after the main upgrade is completed. The other factor that comes into play is that the paving can't be done, permanent paving of the trench that they're going to open, for several months after the main is completed, so that we have time for any settlement to take place before permanent paving is done. So if we were to push them off until the summer to do the actual main replacement, that also pushes off the cleaning and lining of the mains in those other neighborhoods, and also delays the permanent paving well into the fall, when school is back in session, and it's not a particularly ideal time to do it. So it really kind of seemed like we were between a rock and a hard place as to figuring out a better time to do it. And I personally think that the plan that has now been suggested to work during the week that school is out, basically starting from that Friday afternoon, I think the date would be the 18th, 17th, to mobilize their equipment that afternoon. There's an early dismissal, work all day Saturday, full days Monday through Friday, a full day the following Saturday, and then when school is back in session, they would be limited to Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m., so that they are not out there during the pickup and drop-off periods. And then also, weather permitting, and if their schedule permits, they would also then work full days on Saturdays, to get in and out, hopefully within the time frame that they've proposed, which is that 5 weeks. We're hoping they can accelerate it and maybe get out in 4. So that's it. I don't know that there's necessarily really a vote to be taken. I think unless there's a strong objection, we will let them know that if provided that they do it in accordance with the way that they described it, and they get out plenty of public notice, that we will, cooperate and work with them. They're obviously going to have to provide for police traffic control at both ends of the project, where they are looking to probably close down 100 to 200 feet at a time, one lane. So one lane of traffic would always be maintained as open.
They're not going to close Lafayette
They
Avenue
are
down
not.
to traffic 100%. We
Right.
fully realize the nature of this artery, the heavy traffic on it day to day, as it is for many the only way of getting from the township down to the middle school, to the center of town, et cetera. There is no ideal time to do it. And the only real cohesive part of it is that they can do all their ancillary repair work at the same time and knock off both projects virtually at once.
I just want to add, I think 5 years ago when they came, they were only willing to do trench repair on the road. Now they are doing
Correct.
curb to center line. They have agreed to do that,
Yes.
just like on Southern this past summer.
That's correct.
Which is good. It would be great if they would do curb to curb for us, but I understand. But the other part of that is the lessons from Buxton, having a staging area, a proper staging area. I think that worked out well with Southern, and just to ensure that they have that again, that they're not going to, wherever it might be, just make sure they have a place and
Yeah.
it's not on someone's front lawn.
Now, the thinking at this point is they'll stage it the same way they did when they did Southern Boulevard last summer.
Yeah, great. That worked out well.
Yeah.
Tom, when we say 4 to 5 weeks, that's the trenching and the replacement of the main portion of it? And then
That's in and out, as far as, that's the work in Lafayette.
On
About
Lafayette.
they're saying 5 weeks. They think they can do about 200 feet a day, their contractor, and it's 5,000 linear feet. So, and then they didn't really give us a specific time frame for the cleaning and relining of the neighborhood.
Yeah, my
That's something where they're frankly still doing some reconnaissance work to see whether or not that's going to work. It may turn out that some of those mains need to be replaced as well. They think that they're going to be able to just go in and clean them and reline them, but they're not positive yet.
Okay. And I guess there'll be some detours for the traffic going the one way that's closed.
Yeah, the police are going to have to work all that out, and they're quite good at doing that.
I will say, again, over the last few years, our communication with New Jersey American Water has improved. They used to be almost invisible and inaudible, at least, having them come here, sit down, hash and rehash this program with us has been beneficial for everybody, and it is going to take a kind of an information blitz for our residents to be aware on a step-by-step basis which sections are going to be closed. And I know, Chief, you and your capable crew did a great job during the Southern Boulevard repair and replace, and so, we know that you're experienced in it recently. We'll work it. Thank you. Tom, anything else from your perspective?
I guess the only significant report to offer, and you'll hear more about it as time goes on, but the New Jersey State Supreme Court did rule yesterday on the gap period relative to the affordable housing issue, and by unanimous decision said there is in fact a gap period. So the obligation for each municipality will have to include a calculation from 1999 to 2015. That was the so-called gap period that was in dispute. The court, I think, attempted also with the decision to provide a little bit more guidance to the trial courts on how the numbers should be calculated. They did not get specific. They did not get into specifics about the competing expert reports, because they indicated that there really wasn't full testimony or cross-examination of those experts, so they weren't weighing in on that, but they did provide some guidance to the trial courts as to how they should be looking at the ultimate calculations. So what it means for us is a little early to tell, but I'm sure that if you want to research and find the decision, it's out there. You can find it as a public document and download it and read it. It's about 35 pages. Fairly easy reading. It's pretty well written, pretty clear. And that's really about all I had to say about that.
At this time, we have an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearing tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mike Ryan, 73 Orchard Road in Chatham Borough. Good evening. I read for some notes, if you don't mind. Recently, the Board of Education announced that they announced some plans to vacate the space here in the municipal building and spend approximately $2.1 million to move their personnel to different facilities. Myself and some other groups that I'm involved with plan on attending, some of the Board of Ed meetings to get some further details about what the plan is. But I think it would be helpful if we can find out some information about the space that they currently rent here. I have a list of questions. You want me to go one by one or all at once? Okay. I'd like to know, how much they currently spend on the space that they rent here, and if we know the square footage, and do they have a term lease or is it year by year?
That's 3 questions.
Yeah. There's a couple more, so let's start with those.
We're going one by one.
Tom, you're best equipped to answer that.
The lease has actually expired. We are presently in the process of preparing a new lease because they were looking for additional space in the building to relocate the folks that are in the special ed building on Lafayette that is in need of significant repair. So we don't have that version of the lease yet, but they have been paying $50,000 a year in rent. I think we had a 5-year lease initially with a renewal for another 5, so they've actually been here for 10 years. I do not recall off the top of my head the square footage, but it's basically all the offices in the back hallway here, plus a conference room, and then, of course, they use this room for Board of Ed meetings.
So initially, they're expanding their use of the building, bringing more people here until they abandon us.
Okay, so they were spending $50,000 per year on the old lease, and
That's right.
there's 5 or 6 additional folks from the special services group that are coming over. Is space available for those folks?
There is.
There is.
There's a couple of offices, because we had consolidated with the Madison and Chatham Borough and Florham Park in the joint court. The offices that previously were used by the judge and the prosecutor are vacant, and those spaces are going to be rented to the Board of Ed.
Okay, so there's space available for those folks. Okay. So could the space be made permanent? Is the main question. If they desired or needed it to be permanent, could it be made permanent for their use?
From our perspective, they can rent it permanently, yes, but whether it satisfies their needs is not something that really is up to me or us to decide. The space is available. If they want to rent it permanently, they can.
Okay.
And if we can agree on a number.
Okay, so we don't know what that number is going to be.
I know what I've proposed.
What have you proposed?
I've proposed increasing the rent to $60,000 from $50,000.
60 to 50. So at 50,000, it'll take 42 years to spend 2.1 million.
Sounds about
Correct?
right. Yeah,
Okay,
without interest.
right. So we've had 2 referendums recently that were put to a vote. One failed, one passed, skinny down version of the previous referendum. And the $2.1 million of taxpayer funds that were available to the Board of Education weren't used for any of the purposes that were in the previous referendum. So prior to the referendum, was anyone made aware that the Board of Education was going down the path of vacating this readily available, apparently suitable space to spend taxpayer funds on another building, or to buy or build another building for their own purposes?
Is that a rhetorical question, or are you?
I'm
want to know
asking
for
the
sure?
committee if they were aware of it.
I don't believe the committee.
Well-
I think we had from the first referendum, there that was the first time we had heard that they were planning on vacating this building.
They were
Obviously, I
talking
think
about
some
putting
of
all
that-
new offices down in the
Right.
neighborhood of the middle school, on the oval in front of the middle school, but we as residents are pretty much aware of the same things you are. You know,
Yeah,
we
but
don't
no,
get,
but from a committee perspective, to answer your question, I think that was the first sense that, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
failed. And to answer the second part of your question, no.
Kevin, is your mic up?
I'm sorry, Tom. To answer the second part of your question, the answer is no. We didn't, I didn't anyway. I didn't know that they were planning on this now.
Okay, so there's,
And I didn't either, but, you know, frankly, I'm not sure that this is a matter that belongs before this body.
perhaps not, I'm just,
You know, the Board of Ed is a,
Yeah.
you know, duly elected body. That's really where I think your questions need to go. We'll certainly willing to answer any questions that are relevant, and so far, so good.
yeah,
I told you-
surely we'll find out some more details. I just wanted to get an idea about what the space here is, and it appears to be adequate space that could be used and
Again,
leased.
that's a judgment that I don't know I don't feel comfortable making that judgment. I don't know what their space needs
Well,
are. I
it
know
doesn't
that
have
we
asbestos, right?
It does not. I know we have 2 offices that are
Okay.
available. Whether that's adequate for their needs, I don't know. Short term, obviously it is, because that's what they're looking to do. Whether it satisfies their needs long term really isn't a decision for me to make, or for us, I don't
Understood.
think.
Okay, great,
I
thank you
think
so much.
also,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan, as a matter of decorum, because they are duly elected and they are assigned to represent both the borough and the township and the needs of the students and families, it's been pretty much the rule of thumb that they are the ones who manage and comment on their own issues, and we appreciate the fact that they stay where they are and we stay where we are.
Yep, my
Our kids
question.
are all in it together,
Yep.
and we're all in it together,
Of course,
for
my
sure.
questions were mainly to find out what the issue is with the space here,
Right.
if there was one.
Well, thank you
for
for
the-
being with us,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ryan, thanks. Anyone else coming forward? Seeing no one else come forward, we can move along to the introduction of ordinances. Greg? We have before us an introduction of ordinance 2017-01, an ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank, NJSA Ordinance 40-40A 4-45.14.
Questions? Well, does Tom want to explain it a little bit?
You want me to do my annual explanation? Okay.
The first of many?
This is the beginning, I guess, of the budget process officially. And you know, obviously the first step. As you know, we are subject to state caps in 2 areas. First is on the spending side of the budget or appropriations. The other is a cap on the tax levy, how much money, how much you're allowed to increase taxes from year to year. The appropriations cap is tied to cost of living index, and for 2016, it was set at 0.5%. So before you do anything else, you're allowed to increase your spending over the prior year by that amount, 0.5% of last year's appropriations. However, the state allows, if you adopt this ordinance, to appropriate or to authorize up to 3.5% over the prior year, and to then bank the difference between what you actually adopt and the 3.5%. So, because the budget's not finished yet, we do know that we're not going to be anywhere near 3.5%, but we may very well be more than 0.5%. And let's say we come in at 1.5 over last year's. The difference then between the 1.5 and the 3.5, you can bank in cap bank and have that available for use in the succeeding 2 years. So in 2018 and 19, in the event that something happened that put a squeeze on us where we were not able to stay within the mandated cap, you would have that bank that you could then appropriate and use, to satisfy your needs. So this does not authorize any additional spending. What it does is it authorizes the establishment of the bank, of the difference between the adopted budget and the 3.5% that you see here. Is that as clear as the Supreme Court decision on affordable housing?
Much more clear, thanks.
In less than 35 pages.
That's right. All right, any further questions? Do I have a move to introduce?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes. All right, we will move along to ordinance 2017-02, an
Re-
ordinance.
Real quick, the
Yes,
public
Greg.
hearing on that prior ordinance will be February 2nd.
February 2nd, thank you. As I said, an ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 6 of the Township Code to amend the annual renewal fee for liquor licenses.
The history of this ordinance goes back about 5-6 years ago, at a time when the what's now Ace Hardware and Buy Right was vacant from the moving out of drug fair. At the time, the then committee adopted an ordinance to allow for the creation of a third consumption license, and at that time decided to raise the liquor license fees for both consumption and distribution licenses. The state allows the municipalities from one year to the next to raise fees by 20% up to a maximum renewal fee of $2,500, and successive committees have continued that process. Consumption licenses are presently at the maximum. This ordinance raises the distribution license renewal fee from $1,305 to $1,566, which is the allowable increment from last year to this year. So if it be the committee's will, this is a continuation of the process we've done for about 5-6 years now.
Thank you. Greg, anybody have any questions?
No.
May I have a move to introduce?
So moved.
All right, a second?
Second.
Very good.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
And this will also have public hearing on February 2nd.
Okay, and now we are moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda, routine items that may be passed by a single roll call vote. Any committee member may call for a separate discussion or vote on any item. Greg?
The resolutions this evening are as follows.
Before you do, or maybe after you do, there's two that I want to explain a little bit.
Great, thank you, Tom.
The resolutions are Resolution 2017-39, payment of bills, 2017-40, receipt of reports, 2017-41, approving meeting minutes, 2017-42, approving executive session minutes, 2017-43, appointment of auditor, 2017-44, authorizing NJDOT grant application, and 2017-45, refunding tax lien.
Thank you, Greg. Tom?
Yes, resolution number 44 is authorizing a grant application for DOT for road resurfacing. And in reviewing with John Rushke, the township engineer, our needs and the streets that we felt would most qualify for the type of money that the DOT has available, we're recommending the application to repave Robert Drive, the full length from Southern Boulevard to Dale Drive, continue around the corner on Dale Drive from Robert to Spring Street, and then continue on Spring Street to the Chatham Township Emergency Squad driveway. That meets several criteria that DOT is looking for, in that it is more than just a neighborhood street. Robert Drive does serve somewhat as a connector through the neighborhood to Colony Pool and the tennis courts and the emergency squad, and also is in rather poor condition. That whole stretch is in rather poor condition. We'll also be looking later to have Dale Drive included in this year's resurfacing program, the balance of Dale all the way out to Noe, and then there's some other streets, obviously, that are going to be included as well. But this portion we felt could possibly qualify for DOT money, and that's why that's in front of you. Number 45, if
Tom,
you...
is there any chance that the water main project that we talked about a little earlier, could those side laterals stretch as far as Spring Street and Dale Drive
I
there?
don't think so. I think in reviewing it, I don't think that was part of their present plan. But we'll certainly take a look at that. You know, this is a grant that we wouldn't see awarded until later in the year, and would probably be the construction next year,
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
So, but we will certainly review with the utility company to make sure that if they do have plans to do anything, that they, get in and do it.
Okay.
The next resolution, number 45, you'll recall at the last meeting, there was a resolution authorizing the refund of 3 tax liens, and we pulled one. We amended the resolution because there was one that there were some issues with. This is that one. The issues have now been resolved, so it's back on now for your approval. But I wanted to just, highlight that because it had been on the agenda previously. And that's it.
Any further questions on the consent agenda?
Just in reading this, Resolution 44, a little bit confusing from the Dale Drive perspective. Just want to clarify, that's Robert Drive to Spring Street. That's a relatively short stretch of Dale Drive.
I'm sorry, yeah, it is a relatively
That's the
short.
only stretch. I don't want to give the impression to people on Dale Drive that...
No, the easiest way to think about this is it's from Robert Drive, from Southern Boulevard to the emergency squad.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
And then I said, we're going to look to do the remainder of Dale Drive going in the other direction in our own bond ordinance project for later this year.
Very good.
That'll probably get done before this does.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
good going. You
Mr.
read
Kelly?
my mind.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. To all.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz?
Yes. All right, any further discussion? And the next hearing of citizens, time permitting. I suppose we have time to address any matters that are on your mind, gentlemen. There we are. So I suppose, do we have an executive session this evening, Greg? No? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Second. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.